What's good and welcome YouTube. It's your boy Vexus, a lurking legend. Y'all can just call me Vex, the head cook of the Eternal Dawn. So happy to be here today. We have most of the crew with us and a very special guest where we're going to be going over some of his theories for our second theory showcase. If you guys missed the Kuso stream last week, make sure you go check that out. It was all fire. And this week we have our wonderful guest of honor. Man, you might have seen if you've been looking into ancient weapon lore and whatnot and across a One Piece theory space. If you've ever heard of an app called TikTok, you've most likely heard of this man. It's the GOAT himself, Ghost Train. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me once again. It's been far too long. I'm excited to get into it, and like you said, if you're on TikTok and you like theories, come give us a follow, or give us a check out, or at least check us out. You don't have to necessarily follow, just come check it out, see what if you like it. If you like it, stick around.
Got your socials, your link tree, your TikTok, and your YouTube all linked in the description. So everybody make sure you check out those links in the description. Speaking of people who are linked in the description, we have the rest of the crew here with us. We have the first mate and historian here with us today. We got Kube of the Red Sea. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I am so happy that we've got the Professor of O'Hara himself, Ghost Train of Fox, for this crazy week. Man, I can't wait. You know, we all thought we were in the main story. We didn't understand we were in the third world right now. So it's great to have Ghost Train and the crew as well for the discussion. You know, Ghost Train 3-day in one discussion about mythology. Dude, this is great.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
It'll be epic.
Next up, we have the helmsman himself of the Eternal Dawn. We have Knack Reacts. How you doing today, brother?
Oh, what's up, guys? I hope everybody's going to give Ghost a warm welcome in the chat and check out some of his content. I'm super excited to hear his thoughts on some of the stuff. I've been seeing his theories for a long time, and a lot of them have become more and more prevalent as time has went on, so happy to hear it.
Absolutely, and we're going to go over it all today, trust me. Last but certainly not least, we have the navigator of the Eternal Dawn. We would be absolutely lost without her. One of the best people in the community. We have 3-day trip. How you doing today?
I'm good. Hey guys, I'm glad to have Ghost Train here. I can't wait to hear his thoughts on several things now. Not just the mural, but some other things.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. We will probably be going over the mural today, but this is not necessarily an 1138 focused stream. For our full 1138 thoughts, we're going to be doing a discussion, and that video should be going up tomorrow after officials. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel if you haven't already done that. Thank you so much. If you're in the chat, make sure you guys are liking the stream. I see you, Cody. I see you, Mr. Bushido. I see a whole bunch of you guys. Make sure you guys check out all the links in the description. But without further ado, Ghost Train. And like you said, it's been a minute since we've had you on, since before the rebrand, but always a pleasure to cook with you. I heard you've collected quite a few W's lately, which you got something you want to go over first?
I needed a couple more backpacks or satchels, man. It's been kind of overwhelming. There was one chapter at the end of Egghead where I had like 8 points of view kind of come to a head with like Vegapunk obviously not being dead. All the Vegapunks kind of acting similar to like a Horcrux. Like as each one died, they kind of re-amalgamated, and then we see them coming out as one big construct at the end. And I was like, oh, okay, excellent. And then as soon as we hear about the relations with Bonnie and Kuma, I was like, oh, maybe she's gonna have some sort of like secret hierarchy chip that like supersedes everyone. And I thought it was gonna be for like, you know, the Seraphim and everyone, but it just ended up being Kuma's lineage, which was, you know, a lot more poetic and a lot more poignant, and I loved that. But it was just, it was kind of crazy. I was like, holy crap, I don't even want to like make videos saying I told you so, because I'm just going to start looking like a jerk.
That's fantastic, Carl.
But yeah, what about you guys? Like, what are some things that you have been thinking about recently, like mythology wise, and what do you want to touch on first?
Pause.
Well, I think a lot of the community, a lot of the
Sorry.
community is real focused on the Norse connections, but I do like to see your takes on the other influences Oda brings into this. And recently, with the reveal of Shamrock, we know there's going to be a lot of Celtic connections as well. And Mr. Bushido likes to say it all the time, and he got this one right, I guess, this one time. But yeah, there's definitely a lot.
We'll put one coin in the swear jar for him.
Oh my goodness.
Just kidding. No, he's definitely had some good calls. He been in my Discord having some really good discussions lately, and yeah, it's been
That's
having some good discussions and good calls lately.
Yeah, like Nak was saying, that's like one of my favorite things is there's stuff that like obviously with certain different themed arcs like Wano, there was a lot of like yokai and Japanese mythology and whatnot tied in and around that as a self-contained story, and a lot of that does seep outwards into the greater world of One Piece. But we've also seen previously like pulling up on Reverse Mountain, as well as in certain instances in Skypiea, like more Mesoamerican themed and Aztec themed stuff, and then we're seeing Norse theming here. But like I said, all of these like little tidbits are like, they're not so self-contained. Some of that does permeate out into the greater scope of things. So honestly, it feels like this is a W for everybody like in the community. It's like
Absolutely. I agree that like the last couple chapters have confirmed so many things in the community. Like even the most outlandish things have just been kind of becoming more reasonable, I guess is the best word to even assume.
yeah, there were so
Yeah,
many things.
The
Go ahead.
brother reveal, and people, the brother reveal had people upset, but it's not because I think it was a bad move. I think it's because it's been predicted for so long. Like, people have said that it's going to be a long lost brother to Shanks, that people honestly got bored of the idea.
Right, they almost found it underwhelming. They wanted a different twist. They almost want it to be a clone. Like, no, I don't want him to be a twin. A brother is too simple. He has to be a clone. He needs to be the perfect seraphim. It's like, no, he doesn't. Like, this is more
Clearly.
poetic.
The best
This is
answer
better.
Also,
the best answer is if
And
he
also-
is actually a Shanks from an alternate reality who crossed world lines. Come on, like that's the no, I'm kidding. Go ahead,
Dude.
Cube. Sorry.
but Vex, didn't you recognize that Gildarts from Fairy Tale?
Oh my god.
It's him.
No, they're actually
He's a guy
triplets.
himself, and now he's
They're-
a bad guy.
They're actually
like the
triplets.
worst
He's
guy.
They're
he's
actually
the
triplets.
yeah, he's the third brother. Like,
He's the
Yeah.
super evil guy.
I just
So,
wanted them
for
to
me-
have a peg leg. I wanted them to have
Oh,
one leg.
that was hilarious.
To match Shanks' arm.
But because Gildarts from Fairy Tale has a peg leg as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I think also the brother thing is ever since the end of Marineford, the amount of storylines where we found out that like Sabo, then you found out about the whole. There's also the Dofik War as well, but there's been many storylines. In Fishman Island, we meet Tom's brother. Then I think it's just this thing, and then when it was Shanks, people just jumped, to some sort of conclusion or stuff like, it's great. Some people have great furious minds. Their minds should be, under.
Like some people are waiting for a greater reveal
Yeah.
on top of the twin reveal.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
there's going to be something deeper to it, and I really hope there is.
And for
Oh, I
their agendas,
expect it to be
they
a
need
great
Shanks to be the
storyline.
snake. They need him to be the one that went to the Gorse. So that was like, that's very heavy on the whole Shanks stuff for a couple of years now. Like, he's a rat. We can't trust Shanks. He's going to betray, like the trope of the the mentor being the evil one at the end.
Well, like I was
Right,
personally
right,
like
definitely.
a little, underwhelmed with it, but in hindsight, it's because it's been like put out there for so long that there could be a secret brother that we don't know about. That it, in hindsight, it's just the theory community that got one right for so long.
It was such a perfect piece of foreshadowing that it just felt natural as a reveal. It was just like, okay, no one's really shocked. People are kind of like, oh, wow, it got confirmed. Like, they're more shocked that it actually got confirmed than it actually was a reveal to begin with.
it really does
'Cause it's just
make
been so long.
it kind of puts you in the position where it's easy to reconsider a lot of preconceptions that a lot of us have, and they may be differing preconceptions from fan to fan. And like especially if you're like more casually into One Piece, or if you're like straight tinfoil straw hat like all of us, where we like dig into the wiki and like look into raws and stuff, but like no matter who you are, some of the things you thought might have been like not in the wheelhouse of what Oda would or wouldn't do, like all of that is just like completely up for negotiation now, you know what I mean?
Right. And kind of like stepping back to just like the mythology in general that he decides to use, and how in Elbaf right now it's like a Norse inspired arc, and then we're getting, you know, little tidbits of, you know, Mesoamerican stuff, whereas back in Skypiea it was full on Mesoamerican Aztec imagery everywhere. You couldn't, you know, look one direction without seeing it. And then the inverse was a lot of like the power systems, like at the very upper echelon with NL, were Norse based, like El Thor and like all his attacks. So there, as soon as I saw that we were going into a Skypiea mirrored arc, like when we started in the mini diorama of Elbaf and then crossed the bridge, I was like, oh, that's Angel Beach up to the main area. That's, you know, what we expected. And then we kind of went from there as far as theory crafting went.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great inversion. Because I've been personally looking at a lot of like Fishman Island parallels with this stuff, and I know a lot of the crew has as well. So I love these different perspectives.
And this arc has really been Vex and I've been talking like a couple of weeks ago about it, and we're saying like it's kind of weird where we're getting like to the old One Piece, but instead of like waiting couple years to get more on Shamrock and Gunko, next chapter, you know what I mean, like it just picks up.
Yeah,
I'm loving like a different motion, a new motion as well.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Then that's a perfect word to describe it, is like the motion of like everything is just increased, just dialed up. Like what you said, we were conditioned to be waiting almost a year and a half to 2 years for a reveal. Once we get a tidbit of information, that once we get in the next chapter, we're like, oh my god, is this a new standard?
It makes me wonder, not just about like the Holy Knights and other things that have been kind of like seemingly on like what we thought would be the back burner for quite a while now, but also like stuff that's been for 500 plus chapters that some people might have even forgotten. It's something that I feel like your brand is very intrinsically tied to, is like, do you think that here we're gonna get, I mean, a lot of people have been speculating we get a Pluton reveal in the cover story. Do you think we also get like a Uranus reveal here at Elbaf? Is that what's on the top layer? Like, I'd like to know your thoughts on more ancient weapons stuff, because that's your thoughts always blow my mind on this subject, you know.
So starting a little bit further back, just going from like Egghead Island, before the whole Clover reveal, I had been looking into the Medaka mermaids and how their names are all broken down, and you look at, once we found out Nika was the sun god, start looking back. Ichika, you know, 1,000 flowers could be associated with the god of the forest, and then you have Sanka, which in a lot of iterations is mountain cave people, which ties to Aztec mythology and their god of the rain. But then also you have Mount Fuji and a sunken treasure, which is Pluton, essentially, beneath Wano. And then once you get to Yonka, you kind of branch out a little bit more tinfoily, and this is where I tend to lose people, because, you know, why would Oda use something that's like a completely different language? In Turkish, the word for clover is Yonka. So that would be in our last wheelhouse for reveals for stuff to do with Uranus, as we're getting into, you know, the knowledge of Ohara. We've already learned about Poseidon. We already got our Pluton reveals, so the next logical step is going to be learning about Uranus. And then once we got not only Clover being revealed as a D, but our tie back to Haradas and the weather technology there, it's just like, well, here it comes in like the next 25 chapters, hopefully.
Yeah, like open the floodgates.
It just like seems like it's right there. We're on the cusp. Like the meniscus is about to break. Like the water levels are rising. Like we know. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, there's a legend of like the eagle atop the world tree as well. And a lot of people have speculated Uranus will be a flying creature of some sorts. And we haven't seen the top layer of Elbaf yet, so I'm wondering if all that is also tied into the reveal. And we'll find out why it seems that people don't go up there, or the Giants at least don't go up there.
Yeah, it's we do like see like the very tip top, but then it's like cut off immediately by the clouds. So like we can almost assume we see the top, but then we can also assume that there's some sort of staircase on hardened clouds, right, to go up the rest of the way. A stairway to heavens, as you will, right?
Yeah. But I've seen suggested that is where the passage of High West will be, is that top layer where the clouds are.
I'd be pretty happy with that.
I'm hoping that's more revealed to like be where we actually, like, yeah, exactly, where we find the egg and where it's been nestled. And that's probably where, if we do find Scop or Gabon on the island somewhere, like we've seen like some dude with shaggy hair in like chapters back being revealed. Everyone's assuming it's Cheeky, but in the Roger backstories and all that, you see he has that same hair. Like, it's not blonde, but as you age, it's going to, you know, whiten, blonde.
Also, the cover story that people connected between Gabon and Scopper, that same cover story is the chapter around those chapters is when Rayleigh comes to train Luffy for the next 2 years, which I think the timing is very suspicious.
That cover story was never officially colored. I think that's a fan coloring, but I could be wrong on that. Because it's usually only double spreads.
That would be interesting to have like 100% confirmation on that, because a lot of people use that for their theories.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. If it's just like a nothing burger at the end of the day. And like, speaking of like being careful with like what you choose to use as your basis for a theory, I'm fully on the train that Marcus Mars is going to be a traitor at some point, based on like other mythologies and stuff like that. But he fascinates me. I'm kind of like losing my train of thought as I'm like trying to figure out where I want to start with him.
He said the thing.
Why Marcus in particular?
I'm sorry.
Well, he's based off the Quetzalcoatl, in my opinion, because if you kind of rearrange the planets that the Gorosei are associated with, they land with Mars being associated with Venus, which would be the Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent. Now he's an Itsumade, which is like a more corrupted version, but then you look back at Skypiea, once again, you have Gonfall, who has this diseased looking bird in Pierre, essentially like this polka dot speckled flying monstrosity with a human face. Like, when it's basically the Itsumade deconstructed, and then we get Marcus Mars later. So if you open up the possibility of Quetzalcoatl was a god, one of the creator gods that was dissatisfied with the other creator gods and how they treated humanity, but he bided his time until he was able to essentially become his own son, like the next son.
Interesting. Cube, don't you have another line of thinking on how you thought Marcus could end up being the traitor in some way?
For me, it's I always go back and forth with Warcury and Mars. Warcury and Mars.
So interesting.
Which, Warcury is.
I do expect the traitor to be there, but I'd love to hear everybody's takes on it, because I've always thought it was going to be Jupiter. So the fact that there's people have suggested 3 others, but everybody seems to be on board that there's going to be a traitor, and I think that stems back to a bit of the Doflamingo story.
Yeah. And then also he's the first person that gets kind of dispersed from Egghead before everyone else, and when the rest of the Gorosei come back into the chamber, he's finally sitting down. He's got his legs crossed, and he's just like, I'm sick of y'all. Like, it's like, this is the stupidest thing I've had to do in the last 200 years. Like,
and there's also the reverie, and people don't clock in. It's a notion for the Gorosei to never talk about what was before the world government.
Oh, I remember my
Kube-
original
Kube.
point.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
When you're crafting a theory, there's the Ohara incident in the anime. It looks like Saturn is doing a facepalm, or Nosjuro. They messed that up. When you go back and look at it in the manga, it's very, very clearly, or rather, the other way around. They used Marcus Mars in the anime, and I was just like, I'm gonna go look back at that. It ended up being Saturn. In like all panels, it was Saturn. You look at it, like the mustache is there, the like positioning of the people is very consistent with it all being Saturn. And that also makes more sense in context when we find out the reveal that he actually decided to keep the Iron Giant despite his better judgment. He's like, nah, I'm gonna do something stupid that might bite me in the butt. You know? So it's like you can see that he was more reluctant to get rid of that knowledge as, you know, the godhead of science and defense. Like, why would you want to destroy all that knowledge? Like, yeah, they were very close, but we could have used that. They didn't know that they saved all the books at that moment, so he just saw destruction. He just saw a massive loss. So if you look back at that way, it makes more sense that it would be Saturn. And then you look at the anime and they use Marcus Mars, and I'm just like, I can't even use that. So it's like, that's what I meant by like, some things just become a nothing burger at the end of the day. It's just like, this isn't even the same thing at all. I can't even use it.
You have the same thing in Egghead when Nojuro and Zoro clash. And if you actually look at the manga panel, it seems that both of them yelled Kitetsu. I've seen many theories where people are saying that Zoro recognized, sensed the will of Nojuro's sword, and they go, but if you look at it, the bubbles are on both sides almost. So you don't know if they both said it or if it's only one. You can't tell right now. Like, maybe the anime will be accurate, but you know, what you're just saying with the whole horror thing, most likely not. It's the same thing. I've seen many theories based on the thing that Zoro is connected to the Nojuro's Kitetsu.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing is when you get a theory mostly correct based on wrong information. And I've brought this up in the Discord a couple times, and I know you guys have heard this. It's that reveal in the Gorisei's like shadow forms when we see the initial 5 like bolded out figures. That should represent the 5 Gorisei. Like, in my head, when I'm looking at that, I'm seeing 5 people defending their lord. And then when we find out he's a sandworm, the guy on the stairs, that makes so much sense for a hybrid form, because you don't want to cause as much destruction. It makes sense. Like, I rationalized it after I guessed that he was close to a sandworm. I looked at like a Mexican mole lizard because of the arms, but then it said it acted like a sandworm. So I was almost there, based on the wrong figure, because in the anime, apparently that's Emu. And apparently they came all the way down the stairs, and the figure that I thought was Warcury was apparently Emu slowly just aura walking. It's like, what? No, this doesn't make any sense based on what I've been like looking at this panel for like the last couple months. So that's like when I'm just like, whatever, it's okay. Sometimes.
I think it's also interesting to note the distinction between, like, I mean, the manga is canon, and that's what Oda has full say over, like what he puts out, but like the anime technically is not canon. I think I was talking with a goat who's in the chat right now, SSJ8 Cody, about like how sometimes Toei just kind of gets some stuff wrong. I don't remember the exact like episode number or whatever, but I guess like near the beginning of Egghead, apparently like Bonnie was like missing a part of her arm, and like there's little bits here and there, like what you were saying with the Marcus Mars versus the Saturn depiction back in that in the Ohara stuff. It's like the anime, to someone who's anime only, it can be seen as like definitive, but the manga, like the panels themselves, are like what's truly definitive, you know? Like even the Vivre cards aren't 100% definitive because they've been wrong before, but we have to take them as definitive until proven otherwise, you know? But like that's one thing that I'm looking forward to from the anime moving, like once they return and we get the rest of Egghead, is I think that Toei will be a little bit more on the ball about that kind of stuff. But it's really interesting because making content about One Piece, you do have to understand that sometimes it's seen only through the anime eyes, you know, versus like everyone looking into all of the nooks and crannies like we do.
And I do find it kind of poignant that they like went on an anime break just after they did that reveal. Maybe they realized, oh, we messed up the reveal. We got to do this again. We got to go on break and reassess.
Like, huddle up.
I would actually be so happy if that happened.
Lock in, everybody. We gotta work.
Yeah. Otis sees the long-term vision, and Toei doesn't. Oh, Toei's going off like a 6-month vision at most.
Yeah,
you know what I
vibes.
mean? They're just like, okay, maybe this is what he's trying to do here in this scene, but Oda's like, no, I have the whole thing in my mind. So yeah, I always refer back, and like we've been talking a lot about like translations recently and how off they've been, and you really got to go back to the source with that too. And it always helps to have someone in the community like a couple of our friends, Kusalan and Dexter, who help us with the Raz in the original Japanese, because some of this stuff gets so out of context, and it gets changed not for like little small things get changed just to make it sound more comfortable to say in English, but the context gets lost of what's being said.
It's really funny too, because that's like kind of a pivotal point in what's going on in recent chapters. Like last chapter, sorry, lay down Rosie. My dog wants to be on stream with us, but Rosie. Chapter we were literally like given the fact that like this history can be interpreted in multiple meanings, and that's literally us, you know, like some of the fans, if they're only reading like scans or viz and aren't able to read the raws, like myself, I'm not able to translate straight Japanese. And even if you are reading like a native Japanese like speaker and reader, you could still translate this thing in multiple different means. So like that, it's so funny that that's literally a plot point right now with like what's going on, because the sun god is like, oh, is he a god of liberation or destruction or laughter and stuff like that? And so like that's literally us, you know. It's crazy.
I love that you just said that, because I did want to ask Ghost, like, what do you think Nika is in the story of One Piece? Was it a single person? Is it a title that keeps coming up? Is it something that never truly existed, people aspired to become, maybe?
Just like a myth.
What's your thoughts?
I think like the myth definitely started with like an origin person or point, but then since then, like the Will-O-D, it became an idea, and anyone could sort of become that were they the right vessel and had the right ideals. Like Blackbeard's a D, but like Whitebeard said, nah bro, sit down.
yeah, you're not the one.
Like it ain't you. Like you might carry the will of D, but like you aren't that person that Roger was waiting for. Like there's someone like specific, but it also could be anyone. Like Roger assumed it was going to be his son, and then he ended up eating the Maramara no Mi, which is, you know, son adjacent, but then ends up getting his will picked up by Sabo.
And that's sort of like what we're seeing now with Loki claiming to be the sun god, and we know he's eaten some fruit that probably ties into the legend as well. And the multiple interpretations of this legend, like calling it, like Vex just said, the god of laughter or destruction or liberation. These are all different sort of perspectives, and maybe bigger than just a single individual.
Well, and bringing up Loki, you have the like Aztec Five Sons myth with Tezcatlipoca, which is, I would honestly say, kind of like a Loki adjacent character, because they're a god of trickery and mischief and sorcery and all that kind of stuff. They're known as the Smoking Mirror. Well, like the Black Tezcatlipoca.
That is a sick epithet. Like, I just want to say, go ahead and continue spitting, but that is such a cool nickname. Like,
so, kind of carrying on with the imagery that we've already seen from just the small portion of Elbaf right now, you have that first son, which Tezcatlipoca was only able to become a half son because they had lost a limb trying to test the waters of like, and it was ended up eating by the Sepakli. So they lost a limb, and we see that now in Jaguar D Sol. This first son was known as the Jaguar son. Another really interesting thing is they preface it. It's like Nahui Olin or Nahui, like Jaguar, but it's all like known as 4 motion, 4 rain, 4 Jaguar. It's like that distinction of 4. And like we kind of figured out in like the lore backdrops, like the world's been destroyed 2 times, we're in that 3rd world. The other 4 creation myths that surround that 3rd sun have like more or less happened, because in each of those worlds' destructions there was the creation of the fishmen, the creation of the minks, the creation of winged people, so like the Lunarians, the other sky races. And then we even see those distinctions in people, like they had to escape to the treetops, and then we have our Jaguar mink, Pedro of the treetops. Like it's all very, very hammering home the imagery from Oda. He's just like, please look at this. Please look.
I love that connection. That's awesome.
But going back to the Tezcatlipoca stuff, we can look at like everything we're seeing adjacently and then apply that to Loki as that sun god, right? So he hasn't been able to become a full sun. He's chained up. He has the fruit, but he's not able to access that power. He's blinded, like with a blindfold. He's essentially crippled at this point. Like he can't do anything. So he's unable to become that full sun. So I thought that was just really interesting. And then you look at the tattoo that he has on him. And this brings up that eagle that I think Knack brought up. Correct. But there's an eagle that sits atop, and that inverses what we actually see technically with Loki at the bottom, if he's going to be some sort of eagle, or maybe adjacently like a feathered wyvern, like it's always hard to pronounce this one. Heroldsvigar?
You got it.
It's another. So yeah, Heroldsvigar. So they're sometimes depicted as a dragon, most of the time as an eagle. Norse mythology is so messy. There's so many unnamed eagles. There was a rooster that Odin defeated. That's like somehow associated with these. But another interesting thing about that that eagle that's on top is it's sitting on top a larger unnamed like eagle as well. So like it's the smaller eagle sitting atop the large eagle that's unnamed. So Vilafnir, the one that's sitting on top, is the inverse, and that's who's talking to Loki now through the Denden Mushi, Mosa.
Oh, that's interesting.
So like that's kind of like that narrative tether where Oda's going to reverse something but use all the imagery extensively.
It's
It's
wild.
an awesome way of looking at stuff too. With like, I really appreciate that, because you're not trying to like say, you know, these are the things that are happening because of this. You're looking at what Oda's trying to say through his paneling, which is some people forget that. Like Oda is an artist as well as a storyteller.
When he didn't leave anything out when he was sculpting Elbaf. Like there's that one singular root that kind of just like extends further out than anything else. And that is indicative of a root that goes into a natural spring that like creates the rest of life from like it's the only hospitable part of the underworld. And that's closer to where that like little dock where the humans and we saw Shanks down in like the underworlds docked with his Grand Fleet.
Yeah, with you bringing up a lot more on the Mesoamerican theming and whatnot, it reminds me a lot of Skypiea, like I mentioned earlier, and especially with in Norse mythology, how that ties in with the large bird or like rock or eagle up atop the world tree. And we've also had the mention of like West Castle and like potentially the tying of the summit of High West here. You think there's a chance we see a west bird, like we saw a south bird?
Imagine.
Because they look very
that would kind of make
like
sense.
they're themed very like Mesoamerican. If you remember, like the south bird, like it had like a lot of that, almost like it almost looked like a hieroglyphic that like hopped off the wall or off of the like a pyramid of like a Giza or something like that. Like it's very themed, and like I'm wondering if we get that again here, which would be. It was also massive, if you remember. That thing was giant.
Yeah, and this is and like not to get off topic with Southbirds, but I think this is kind of telling us why the creatures of Elbaf are so big. Like there must be something in the atmosphere, much like when Jaya was sent to the sky, that all the trees became supersized and the birds became supersized. There's just access to this energy that allows them to reach higher limits, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. But people to grow, creatures to become more dangerous, things kind of just go to their extreme in Elbaf.
Yeah, a lot of the times you'll see.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, the only thing I was gonna say, like the fact that you just said a west bird, just it would be the most poignant direction to go around the world. Just that sun rising in the east, setting in the west.
Yeah.
Just kind of like symbolically healing the world. Like I think that's what's gonna be
3 day. West bird and dragon have stare down.
They never could.
Well,
always look in opposite directions.
Oh my goodness.
Willa Dreams brought up a good point as well. The giant bird from Hebrew mythology, Ziz, which kind of rounds out the ancient weapons like the behemoth, the Leviathan, and Ziz. And there's like a very popular picture of a rock-like creature, like the Ziz picking up an elephant. So that's good. That's how we're gonna get Zunisha back to her family in the Florian Triangle.
I love it.
We've been
picking her up.
Zunisha being from paradise,
but we've been talking
it back.
To bring it back to what Nak was saying about like the gigantic like flora and fauna here on Elbaf. It's something that's really interesting to me, and I looked into deep sea gigantism, which is a thing we see here in our actual world, whereas it's been proposed by several different minds that because it's colder, things have to grow of a larger size to retain more heat within their mass, or it also seems that in certain climates larger animals are just more efficient, and it could also be that there's just less predation. And so this is known as the warland, and it would be crazy if there wasn't like some sort of like food chain going on here, but maybe because it's become more peaceful, possibly longer back than we thought. Like how long ago was this heralded as warland? And so any of these factors could actually go into why there is a ton of gigantic flora and fauna here. But it could also be like, I don't know, maybe black magic or the work of a devil fruit like we saw with Biblo, or and so like there's so many different factors. Do you have any prevalent thoughts on that, Ghost?
Not that I can readily access at the moment. Just trying to take it all in. If anyone else has some other thoughts, I'll kind of jump on them.
Well, Kush asked a nice question here in the chat, because you mentioned how Zunisha from the Florian Triangle, he said, do you think the shadows are other giants, elephants, or could there be like a giraffe or something, or are they maybe demons related to Emu? Because I've thought all of the above myself before, but recently I'm more along the lines that they are some sort of ancient force.
Right. Like, I think the depiction that we get most accurate is going to be from that like Salvador Dali painting that like everyone loves to reference when they talk about Zunisha because of the long legs and everything. But you see a large creature in the back, an elephant that's on its own, and then you see a whole pack of like an additional 3 elephants. And then in front of it, you see this white horse that also has the long legs, which is a reference back to long ring, long land.
Okay, yep.
So like it ties in Shelley. So when you look at Shelley and the fact that they're kind of a reference to Joy Boy and Zunisha needing to meet again once Tanjit finally falls out of the sky, it's just like, oh, long time no see.
Yeah.
Joy Boy, it's been a while.
No, I like that, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that I had a long time ago. This was before I was ever even in post time skip, when I was just a wee little anime only. But I remember seeing the sea behemoths, you know, like the winged, like, and they were truly just silhouettes that were cast down from on high, like up on Angel Island, right? And I was like, what if this is an inversion of that? And this was before I got to post time skip, mind you. So I didn't know Fishman Island was even a thing at this point in time. But I was like, okay, so what if there's something that is casting this silhouette up from the bottom of the sea or something, like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, instead of from like way up in the sky, like, and in the white sea. Exactly. Yeah. So like if there's some, and so that's something that never fully left my mind, but like the further I got in, I was like, nah, that can't be it. But there is the Sunlight Tree Eve down at the bottom, which does produce like radiant light. So there could be, like, depending on, I don't know, if it could happen from 10,000 kilometers up, it could happen from, or however high, you know, like it could happen from that 10,000 meters down below as well, you know. That was kind of where my line of thinking was.
Fun fact, and this brings up even more theories. Oda did give an answer on those silhouettes or those creatures we saw in an SBS, and he just said that you should check out something called Broken Spectre, which loosely is basically an illusion that a caster sends to look from afar in spirituality. And he did brought up that notion, yeah. Which brings this whole theory of that. It's called, I'll write it in the chat here and also in the YouTube chat. And basically, it just brings another question when you see that SBS is, okay, he gave us an origin where he got the idea. So there are three pairs of eyes. Who are the three pairs of eyes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wait,
I like the...
Cody.
Just to touch on them a little bit more, you've been talking about the Sea Devil a lot since we've seen this mural. And that was my initial thought for a long time. These are what the Sea Devils that Shanks was referring to are. They're not actually anything to do with, and they could be, but they're not actually the source of devil fruits. They're an ancient evil of the ocean.
Yeah, a lot of people have
like a
like an umibozu, which is like that's what a lot of people have pointed out too, and I think that's interesting. I think that Cody has the funniest take I've ever seen in the chat right now. That they're ancient panda men.
they're the yetiest, coolest brothers.
Oh hell yeah, bro!
The yetiest, cool sisters.
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
Chat's talking about the mural now, but man, we can get into that too, because I mean, this is going to be an inspiration for theories and something to come back to and look at for years.
Actually, before that, I'd like to bring up something before we get in, because the mural is going to be a whole, Roman Empire just talking about it. Something that was said, like the chapter before that, since we've seen the Gods Knights making their moves in our recent chapters. The chapter before that, the last thing that Oda, the narrator left was, the Holy Knights, the God Knights have mobilized. We know what that means because a certain leader of the Revolution Army said that will be when they start making the moves. But before we get into the mural, with that being said, where do you think the Revs are going to make their moves first? Because it seems that they're about to move now.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what Ghost thinks about that.
I feel like as much as they want to assault Marie Joie right now, they're going to be trying to secure outposts and like high ground. They're going to be trying to actually do like mass migrations and like prepare for that before moving, which this is going to be actually probably happen a lot quicker than we think, just because of how they've influenced and made contact on so many islands in the past, they've probably left, like, a transponder, an operative or two in every island that they've liberated. It would only make sense.
Yep.
It's interesting
So,
you brought up mass
spread of
migrations
information is really quick.
Yeah, because we see them specifically active in the East Blue in Robin's time skip events briefly with Tequila Wolf, and then we got the information later into Egghead, right, that there are actually 4 of those bridges, presumably one for each of the blues, and that would be the perfect way for and that's actually really, really interesting, is if they liberated each of those like locations so that there's no longer like construction upon them, but like it's like think of it as just like a through line for everybody.
Mobilize.
Yeah, for everybody, not only to be able to escape whatever oppression might be on their island, they don't have to make it all the way to the Grand Line and Memorial Kingdom or anything like. No, they just have to make it to this bridge, which is in their very own
exactly.
blue.
Once it's been liberated, it's essentially neutral zone now, right? It's just like, okay, it's liberated, it's neutral zone. Now everyone can just kind of get there. Just put a whole bunch of like ladders on the side, like you have on had on Zunisha when they were like patching them up. It's just like any means to get high ground.
Those who are willing to and able to fight would also, I'm assuming the bridges lead straight to the Red Line, like possibly even
like
Marie Joie.
Kind of
yeah, so like that would be like the craziest thing as well, because if you had Morley like just having people tunnel all the way like this is huge. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it too deeply because I was like, there's too many other things that have to line up in place before we actually see it. But you have a really good point about the outposts, and like, yeah, I like that.
Because I'm thinking about it now, like they have established like residential areas on these bridges. Like they have housing. Like it's just like we just gotta get there. It might not be the best, but we can like if the building blocks are all literally already here, we can rebuild society.
You laughed, Cube, but like I meant it as in like they've had that many communities up on these bridges that they've been like deteriorated over time, like and moved on. Like there's so much infrastructure on these bridges, you could set up a society to live just on them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are expecting like Dragon to fully go up to Marie Joie right now, that the Holy Knights are dispatched and doing whatever they need to do, and that's what Blackbeard is waiting for. He's waiting for someone to misstep. Like we see him watching it with Lafitte. It's just like he's just keeping tabs. As soon as someone makes a dumb move, he's just gonna fly over there.
Yeah, I think.
Also, I like to say I only laughed. It's just the way both Ghost and Nike said it, and there's living over there. I was just imagining the trope of you saw a crazy apartment, when you get there it's just a hole. That's what
the New York
sounded
apartment.
like it was just, it was like an amazing place, and then you see, dude.
It's like the trunk of a car.
Decrepit housing.
I paid $3,500 for this broom closet.
But what you were mentioning before is like, I agree. I don't think that, like, yes, things are going to start to fall more into place, but the tactics don't stop just because, like Dragon said, that like the way that I kind of took it from like my interpretation of it when he mentioned that like when the God's Knights mobilize, like that's when like the battle begins, is like that's the beginning. That's not, so it's like, think of it like a chessboard. In fact, like think of it like, I don't know, like 3D chess, or like, like Dragon chess, where there's like several layers to it and whatnot. So many of the pieces are going to be preoccupied elsewhere, and like that would be the perfect time to set yourself up to strike. But you don't just strike right away as soon as you can. Like check doesn't always mean checkmate. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like the famous quote, like job's not done. Like it's just like, no, like we still gotta go. Job's not done. Like keep going. Don't run the clock.
Also,
play hard until the end. Like job is not done.
We've seen a fantastic infiltrator as well in Kars, who's still keeping an eye on things with the world government. So yeah, I do think there won't be like an initial assault, but I also like the idea we've played with a few times now in these chapter reactions and discussions, of a lot of the final pieces coming to play on Elbaf. Elbaf actually being a war ground, as we now see God's Knights coming here. And if Dragon does get wind of this, he may send forces. Shanks is known to protect this territory if he gets word of this, so I expect him to come back. Luffy, the Giants, possibly some Lunarians still kicking around. I think Elbaf could really pop off.
Yeah, final war material. We might not have to go much further or anywhere else at all. It could just literally happen here. Is something that me and Nak have been kind of pushing around like in our heads for like a couple weeks now, a couple chapters, so probably over a month now. But we have a
it's
we have
the
a famous
only island big enough for this kind of battle too.
Oh, for sure. And it's prepped. It's got giant cannons and a huge sword that I'm convinced is just a lawn ornament. But like, go ahead, Kube. I was about to pivot. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, alright, perfect. When it comes to the Rev, all I'm gonna say is when we got like the reveal of Dragon's full name and the Revolution Army and everything, it was just after the arc where Luffy declared war to the world government. Would it be fitting that we get all the Rev stuff just after Luffy in this arc will maybe declare war to the God's Knights?
Yeah,
Bang. Huge. But you can't really talk too much about Elbaf and God's Knights without talking about Loki, and we have a pretty prolific Loki agenda that we've been cooking up for a couple chapters now. How do you feel about hashtag free Loki, our movement, Ghost Train? Like,
Hashtag free Loki. He did nothing wrong.
exactly. Yeah, this guy gets it. Like, Loki,
he did absolutely nothing wrong.
he was framed. Yeah,
Dude was grown up, already portrayed as an evil person. He's like, well, if you're gonna call me that, well then whatever.
I think it was a combination. Like I think it was Mother Caramel probably did the most to like tarnish his name like right out the gate. Like as soon as he was born, like he was already getting like there's some machinations put in place. But like, do you trust Ja Rule? I'll never pronounce it the other way. It is Ja Rule.
That's how I say it. That's how I say it, Ja Rule.
Yeah. But do you trust him? Do you think he's because I don't know, man, we've been thinking there's something fishy going on here, right? Someone's spinning some yarn, I think.
Vex, don't worry. Last night, for 5 minutes, I just gave us all of the layout of the Ja Rule, the stuff we've been talking about, so he's aware of all the different points. I talked to him about it, so.
He is a hilarious character, and I love the gag with the sword and the helmet, and I pray he wasn't the one behind this.
So
Stuff is not adding up here.
what would you respond to? I trust him, but I don't trust his judgment.
Yeah, I get that.
If
That
that,
can go back to the manipulation stuff, which I
well,
always
that
think is
like
abnormal.
that, and also like during the manipulation, also getting sword in the head to like kind of solidify that stupor.
Yeah, he's had some
So
external
yeah.
external influence, you know, like some steel driven straight through, you know, like, but I think that might be there might be more to it as well. Yeah.
The biggest thing I can think of is the parallel back to Little Garden with Dory and Broggy and their conflict, and when Dory consumed the alcohol and it exploded in his face. I think something similar is going to happen. Not necessarily an explosion. It's not going to be an explosion. I think what happened was the green fairy was tampered with already in a hallucinogenic thing. It probably just put them into a frenzy. So everyone was going nuts. No one knew what was going on, but probably one or two people who don't drink. And it would be hilarious if Loki was not an alcoholic because of all his Zorro parallels in his introduction. It would be hilarious if he was a dry boy. It would be so perfect that he was the only one of sound mind and realized what the hell was happening, and he was chained up for it. Not necessarily, and he was chained up for literally helping. He's just like, well, everyone's going nuts. Someone tampered with the royal stew.
We just got the green fairy too, leading into the arc where everyone blacks out and doesn't know what's happening.
Well, exactly. And if you come into the island in the wrong direction, you have the sleeping mist that surrounds the island. So harnessing that plus the green fairy in general, is probably quite possible into our Caesar parallel, a noxious gas being released into the area, right? Like the Punk Hazard and Elbaf parallels are also quite large.
And think about this. What are the other? What is while Ja Rule's talking to the Straw Hats? Why are the other giants just not participating? Because they're all drinking except Ja Rule.
Well, I love
it's like it's
what you were saying, Cube. We kind of all touched on it last week with how there's a question like if the Giants were really strong for a long time because Big Mom took one out as a child, took out one of their main warriors as a child. But what if it was just a moment of opportunity where Mother Caramel used the soul powers to, extract the power of Yorl when the opportunity arose, and then the situation unfolded as it did, and everybody blamed Linlin for the incident, but it was actually Mother Caramel the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
that'd be kind of
there's
crazy.
There's a lot going on, and like if we're making parallels back to other arcs, just to backpedal slightly, it's not me if I don't bring it back to Thriller Bark. Everything ties back to Thriller Bark, but we've seen like with Loki imprisoned in like a frozen area down below, and enchained and things like that. That reminds me of Ors, and Loki were both, obviously giants. Probably they have direct ties to ancient giant lineage. We know Loki does now, and they're very Luffy coded in that sense. Like Ors was a goofy goober. He was like it was crazy, right? Like seeing how Luffy-esque. And then like Loki also, he's calling people the wrong names and stuff like that. We don't even know if Shaggy is that person's real name or whatever. If that's just like because he called Luffy Rhodey, right? Like, and so there's like. Yeah, there's that, and then he's hanging out with and like these beasts and calling him, those are his buddies, and he's like talking about avenging them, and they're both portrayed as sun gods either by themselves or by other figures. But like there's so much parallels and inversions between Luffy and Loki, just like there were with Ors and Luffy. And I think that is really interesting as well, because if we look at Luffy, he's been captured like I think almost 20 times, like closer to 20 than 10, I believe, right? It's like 16 or 7. Somebody had like actually, I saw a Reddit post, somebody actually calculated and found out like exactly how many times Luffy had been captured, and it was like the same as Kaido whenever we got Kaido's backstory. So like he's been captured a ton, and it's so Luffy to just end up in a bad situation and get the finger pointed at him, and him just being like, oh, I guess. And like we literally saw that at Logtown, where he's like, okay, I'm dead, like, and he didn't really like. Yeah. So I don't know, to me that just screams like this is a Luffy and like Ors kind of paralleling situation, and I have to bring up Thriller Bark at least once to stream, I'm contractually obligated.
I love that stuff though.
Another thing that pushes Loki definitely being not being the culprit is, who is the heir to the throne? The prince takes out his father and then decides to leave the kingdom to become a pirate. It doesn't add up. Like the dude after just left, remember? Shanks had to bring him back. So I think don't add up.
We all had a inclination when Luffy first met him, because I remember the community suggesting the idea, Luffy is a pretty good judge of character, and he seems to be trusting or getting along with Loki. And the more chapters go by, the more I really stand by that, like the way Luffy is defending him. And Zoro is kind of like, well, if you say he's a good guy, I'm going to take your word over all these people.
Nami as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's going to be
very
some
important that Nami's going with them right now because of what we were saying about, like, Loki did nothing wrong. It's the whole Kokiyakushi village thing again, where maybe a good portion of the giants actually do know that Loki was a good guy and he's being portrayed as, this like negative propaganda.
Yeah, look at the first impression we get of him in the Lola, or I'm sorry, in the Lola chiffon, like Big Mom stuff in Whole Cake, right? He's just a cinnamon roll holding
Big
up a little flower, being a cutie pie, and like I love that for him. Yeah. And to tie this also to another arc is like with the Kuja, they had the, like, Granny Neon told us about the love sickness that pulled the empresses off of the island, and so that could be exactly what happened. Maybe he just fell in love with Lola and was like, all right, peace out, Elbaf, I'm gone. and it wasn't something malicious.
just-
You know, maybe he's just a lovey-dovey. He's a hopeless romantic or something.
He's
of the
a
sort.
bleeding heart.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I think Loki.
He loves his animals.
Hashtag free Loki.
I love the Luffy parallels.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not forget when Roger was at his hostile hockey, when the White Pirates came in the Odin flashback, every creature were escaping the territory. You know, hostile energy most likely, which makes sense. But we know Roger's nature. The animals love too much Loki. You know, I mean, for him to have a bad bad aura, bad spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to
And
want
his
to
brother is
defend him.
Harden. I mean, we seen Harden in the not the most recent chapter, the one before that, and his true character. And if Loki is anything like his brother, then he's gonna be more misunderstood than maligned.
Right. Well, and it's also actually, which chapter was that? No, that was 1137. But when Rhoda's talking about Hyruden, and he's talking about oh, he accepted me despite me being kind of nerdy and kind of an outcast, and I could see that being the parallel back to Loki, obviously, because we had our mini version of I'm the sun god, and then we get to Loki, no, I'm the sun god. So
And we see that Rhoda
Set
has this passion to want to be Loki, and there has to be a reason for that, and maybe it's because of the relationship that Harden and Loki had at one point, and he witnessed that, and he was like, I want to be Loki because I want to be closer to Harden.
right.
I can see that.
Some
I'm still keeping an eye on Rodo
deep
because
connections.
dude, that skull that he had at the beginning of the arc is just like that skull from one of the God's Night in God Valley, that was behind Garling, which is
I'm really interested to see what animal that was, because
Dude, I want to know about his staff.
The moose are dinosaurs.
Well, I want to know his staff is like a net, and then we see like a homie adjacent shield, like it was snoozing like in that one panel on Goldberg's back, but then it also had its like tongue sticking out in another panel. Like that's a living thing right there.
Yep.
And this kind of like I've mentioned, and I put it on my bingo card like the past 2 years in a row, like we need another devil fruit object. I was sure we were gonna get one out of Egghead when we were like literally in Vegapunk's like front lawn, but like we didn't really get anything there. And it's more likely that maybe we can find a homie or two here, like maybe Pandora, like their lingering essence or something like that. But I think that they might have like, and with stuff that happened in the recent chapter as well, obviously, where there's no hard confirmation, but I think they might know how to put devil fruit into objects here. Like, that'd be interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, who is the one who came up with the that Kube and Spannon talked 2 decades ago? It was Vegapunk who came up with the technology, and that's around the same time that Vegapunk started going to Egghead for the O'Hara information, to Elbath. Could be connected, Maybe at the same time as he was reading in the library, he started learning more about how they create their weapons, and then could create their weapons.
Yeah, like if Vegapunk learned it from here is like what I'm kind of thinking is a potential as well, because like he had communication with Saul.
I like that train of thought.
Like Vegapunk probably saw this mural at some point, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, dude, definitely. With that,
That's probably how he knows
sense.
about the Warrior of White.
Yeah. So this is
what did he?
Yeah.
How did he end?
But about the devil fruit weapons, like I think this might actually be like not exactly devil fruits infused in a weapon, but like the same source of energy, and this is the more ancient form of it, like what Shamrock's using.
spicy.
We had an escalation sort of thing, 3 points in the story. We had it at Sabaody where up to that point, Haki was just this mystical force, and then we meet some old man who can stop Kizaru's attacks with his fists.
So
And
you're
we're like,
insinuating
what is this? Well, that was
there's
a level up.
like
You know what I mean?
some demon vegetables or something like that, like not quite devil fruit, but
or some
It
like
could be.
exactly,
I
or
might
some
have-
like ancient primordial energy that became the devil fruits. But this is this is the extract of it. This was never a fruit. This is like a manifestation of that energy.
What if it's something that it was brought up? I'll go make sure with Nolan's backstory in Jaya, or the Skypia flashback, and what we learn about Enma. You know, Enma has his own spirit inside it. I remember how they talk about
right, and I think that's
spirits going to trees.
That's along
like
these
what if
lines
it's,
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like what if it's certain materials that you cut that are like have spirits in them as well?
If I could put it bluntly, I feel like the swords are utilizing soul energy in a sense, and whatever the soul energy is the same soul energy that created devil fruits. And like, oh, we lost you for a second, but
Classic.
yeah, I think that it's just a progression. Like in Wano, we've seen how Enma seemed to be an entity. I'm wondering now if the dolls that Sukiyaki had, the voodoo dolls, were like a representation of him using actual people's energy in the weapons he created.
Maybe. Kind of like
But yeah,
like putting your heart and soul into something, kind of like
right.
that narratively.
Yeah, but that would be like the light side of what's happening would be like Zoro's sword, you know, having Odin's energy in it, like a hero's energy. And then we see Cerberus, which is, you know, technically the guardian of hell, and his energy put into a blade would be like the dark side of this force. No, not trying to get Star Warsy with it, but
yeah, I think it's really interesting as well because we've seen people doing this like all the way through the New World and like since Alabasta with Vivre cards, but it's like on a less like concept like or broad term. It's just like, hey, this is like me, a normal human, putting my life into that. But like then we did see Ace's Vivre card like catching fire, and he has like the Mera Mera, and like yeah. I don't know, it's really interesting is because like yeah, I could see that as well, is like kind of like imbuing not just hockey but like life force beyond just like the confines of will,
the
but
essence of something.
Yeah, like the soul, even like, because we know that the soul is more or less something tangible and less ethereal, based off of what Vegapunk was theorizing, and what that, I think it was like a scientist from the West Blue who said it, right? Which we all know that's Hogback, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Or at least we all accept.
I think Oda will definitely put it together more elegantly than I'm trying to say, but I think you kind of get the idea of it. Like there's something more than just hockey put into these weapons, something more permanent. Like hockey seems to be something that's a constant, like if you put hockey into a blade, like that's an active thing, but this is more like a passive thing. Like this is the weapon. The weapon was created with this energy kind of deal.
Yeah, and then kind of like exponentially that fact would turn into like a black blade, like the more you imbue in that process.
We need to get some more on that because that's fallen right off the map. But I'd love to see it. I'd love to see how we get black blades. And I expect Zoro to blacken the Wado.
Yeah, listen, all I'm saying, they've introduced sunstones, just saying. No, just kidding.
Wow.
That's how Mihawk paints his blade.
Yeah, just sunstone. But this is one thing I'm so happy. It's just a bracket. It's an ability that was introduced in Little Garden, and that was so interesting. Miss Golden Week's ability, Color Trap, and I'm so happy that it's doing kind of a comeback in this arc.
Mm-hmm. They really were quick with it. They didn't like spend a lot of time on it either, so it was just like, okay, hopefully they come back to this.
Yeah.
And she's been used as like a symbol to represent like technology throughout the cover stories and stuff like that, and even in chapters. Like she's always with the apple on her head, kind of similar to the Vegapunk symbolism. Mm-hmm. She knows another level of technology, you could call it, or understanding of powers in this world. Good. And I'm happy we're getting the clarification on that. It seems to be a sunstone she was using.
Yeah. I mean, listen, in a pre-time skip, at that point, she was the one who basically kind of got rid of Luffy from fighting without even pulling, even without one punch. When you think about it.
punch.
I think for me, it's really great seeing so much of this stuff. Like I never thought we would get. I thought Oda would leave it up in the air, but Cube's been spitting about the Miss Golden Week like agenda for like at least 2 years now, as long as I've known him, which it's crazy that it's been 2 years already, Cube. But yeah, it's insane to me that we're getting so much of these like little tie-ins to previous events, but it's like I'm trying not to get how I feel like a lot of the community, myself included, got with the wind up and end of Wano. And I know we just started with Elbaf, but I was expecting, and a lot of people were expecting, I won't speak for the whole community, but I know for myself, Wano had the potential to, like Knack had mentioned, with the Black Blades and like with several other like more esoteric and like lesser known like things. I was expecting we would get a lot of payoff from a lot of those things, and I'm not trying to do that with Egghead, because I do, or I'm sorry, not Egghead, with Elbaf, because I didn't think we were going to be on Egghead for too long, but I think we're going to be here for a while. Like I think this could be another Wano sized arc, maybe, but I don't want to expect too much from it, you know what I mean? So like us mentioning all of this stuff, it's great to have these
what
theories.
We've gotten is massive.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I've been hurt before. Like, so if you had to pick one, like for sure thing to come out of Elbaf, like Ghost, what would you think would be like if you had to leave everything else behind, and that would have to be within the rest of the final saga, or never answered at all, or answered in the SBSs or Viva cards? But if you had to pick one like bigger reveal outside of the massive one we just got, what would, or like even a confirmation, what would you pick?
And this is definitely a self-serving one, I need to know the true and entire context of Uranus. Like I just need to know what it is.
I get
how
that.
it functions, and why it's the planet.
I respect that. And why it's the planet is great. Oh man. Yeah, it's really fitting, because that's like the first.
That's not a lot to ask.
No, but not at all. But no, that's like the first actual. I've never have been very prevalent on TikTok, but I remember seeing just across different Discords, and this had to be over a year ago at this point in time. That's the first actual theory I ever got from you, Ghost Train, and that actually helped me get more into like TikTok and stuff. So that's really iconic that that's your answer. You know, like it's funny. I
think it's like the one thing I'm like most well known for outside of like maybe my like Goka discussions, but that was also a year and a half ago. It's hard to dig back in the brain on.
No, that's good, man. I love that stuff.
I won't lie. Obviously, Uranus for me will pop me up, but there's something people have heard me like getting obsessed with this specific Straw Hat. Every time they go back, they do a backstory or talk about the past. Brook is conveniently somewhere else doing another plan that he wanted to do. I want to see, because of the the age of the giant warrior pirates, not the new one, the older ones, if there's connection with the Romber pirates as well with them, because don't remember, Romber pirates' name was revealed and Brook was revealed around the same time as the Oni Ors was revealed. So I do hope we get, because dude knows a lot of stuff, but at least 90 years ago, is never there to talk about it.
Yeah.
He's got to know something.
No, I think that's a good one. Oh, he definitely knows a lot that we haven't gotten context on. And one of his coldest lines was when he called Big Mama young lady.
Hell yeah.
Iconic.
Oh my goodness. But
I think, yeah. What about you guys?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say
If I had one question I want answered, it's definitely if the Passage of High West is here or not. I need that.
You're not asking for much. Like, I think that's a very non-consequential.
No.
You know, if we do or don't get that, so I think that's a very respectable answer, Heck.
Yeah.
A humble request, even.
Yeah. What about you, Q?
Well, and it would make I have this long-running agenda on like how migration turned Lunarians to the Birkins, to the Skypians, and Shandians, and so on. So if this does confirm to be where the Passage of High West is, it just would really put a cherry on top of that.
So you probably think
headcanon.
Arouge is going to become a Lunarian at some point.
No, I think it was actually the opposite direction. And the less they used their wings, the less they became prominent on their bodies.
Mm-hmm. I've had like a similar adjacent theory that he's on his Mad Monk, voyage and pilgrimage to essentially become a Lunarian. Because if you look at his devil fruit, it's just like that, taking in damage and releasing it outwards as your own power. He's already got the tattoos with the flame, plus the wings that are more massive than literally any other Birkins we've seen.
Yeah, we have a bingo channel.
Fair points.
Yeah, we have a bingo channel here in the Eternal Dawn Discord, linked in the description. If anyone else wants to like contribute theirs, and like I know the year is kind of already in, but this is more just like Elbaf bingo like squares, but we also do like a yearly review of them, and like I've put a couple on my that like I think are really, I don't know, I'll pick one from there in a minute, but if you haven't already checked that out, Ghost, like some of us have been checking off some W's there, but feel free to make your own if you want. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, there's a template in the Discord.
Seek.
I think
I can answer for 3 days. 3 days question.
Go ahead.
What is life in One
What you
Piece?
got?
No, I'm just kidding. Because really be finding the answers that we've been waiting for that we never know we should be asking those questions. So, but yeah,
I think mine, like if I had to pick like one thing that I definitely wanted from Elbaf, it would be, oh man, like I want Loki to have a paramecia. I don't want it to be some cracked Logia or like some like crazy. I don't need a powerful like devil fruit in the hands of a powerful devil fruit user. I want it to be like another Doflamingo situation where it's like a very unassuming devil fruit that somebody who's creative enough can take it to limits that we never expected.
Yeah, that would be
like
really
the Gomu.
Yup.
I love it. No, I do want to say though, like seems like we're getting ready to wind down a little bit. Is that just me, or am I?
Yeah, I was just gonna make one joke. And we could go to the icing on the cake for the stream, obviously. But imagine if Loki thought that he ate the Nika no Mi and he ate the actual Gomu Gomu no Mi.
It's just rubber. That's the resin. It's the resin.
There's like the reverse between Luffy and Loki. The reverse. They both thought they ate the other person's fruit.
Oh my goodness.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be so funny. That would be so funny. Yeah, Will, that's a great one too. Will wants Loki's hammer to be the poneglyph that we're missing.
That's wild.
Or a poneglyph in
That's
general.
wild. Yeah, that is so crazy. Actually, I backpedal. I changed my mind. The one thing I want from Elbaf, and this is the funniest thing on my bingo card, is that I want us to go the entire arc. Give us twice the amount of chapters as Wano. 300 chapters on Elbaf. And I hope we never once mention the giant sword. I hope it's literally, I just let it be shown in the background of panels and nobody talks about it. Just like at all. Never bring it up. I think that'd be hilarious.
That would be good.
So now we can do the pivot, but I'm just gonna say Will of Dreams drop his question. It's very funny because it's just 3 words. The ring eyes.
Oh man.
That's a tall order.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, I definitely did want to pivot to this and see like Ghost's thoughts on the mural we got recently. I know it's been the hot topic in the community the past few days. Can't go anywhere without seeing people's interpretations of it. And right off the hop, what was your first thought seeing this picture?
I want to have it tattooed across my chest.
I saw
Okay.
B tattoo.
I respect that.
That's a huge tattoo, man. That's a huge tattoo.
You're looking at
That was my
several.
literal first impression. My first thought was, I need this on my body.
Yeah, that's like several 8-hour sessions right there. That's a lot. Like,
That's all right. My first tattoo was a full sleeve, so I'm willing.
I won't lie. I think if you do this as the mural as a tattoo, it might go from your back to your stomach.
Depends.
It's true.
I gotta save the actual depiction of the third worlds for my back. You know, the one that's probably on Laugh Tale.
I thought you were gonna say something more out of pocket. Sorry.
I know. You're gonna start be looking like, for those who've seen Yu-Gi-Oh, you're gonna be looking like Merrick and his Egyptian tattoo on his back.
Yeah. Hey, at least I do have an uncle that is Egyptian, so I could at least make the argument that I've had familial ties. Uncle by marriage, so I'm not blood related.
You were
So
you were
tell
actually
us.
one of the first people that I thought of whenever I got the mural, because like I said, it's almost like hand in hand. When I think of ancient weapons, I think of Ghost Train. Like, you know, after all of the discussions that we've had you on previously before the rebrand, and just everything I've seen from your channel, it's just like, and a lot of people, myself included, are speculating that all three of the ancient weapons are represented here. We clearly see like a mermaid princess, but like, do you have any thoughts on other ancient weapons?
Other ancient
with the
weapons.
mural, specifically referring to the mural, you know.
Going back to my jesting comments about like needing to know that Uranus is the planet, I would say if we're looking at this and there's any depiction of Uranus, it's either that planet that is just behind the description of the first world, where you see that little bit of a ringed planet that matches the tattooing on the massive serpent, as well as the ancient giant's belt. But I think Uranus is like the progenitor, or like obviously the planet, but represented through this tree. Just like in Norse mythology, the world tree isn't just, you know, a tree. It's representative of the 9 realms, the realm of, you know, humans, everything. It's the planet itself. It's everything. So to see that at the top there, a breath stirred in the abyss, and the god of the forest wove their magic, nurturing its devils. After the first calamity, just like the Buster Call of O'Hara, all that knowledge and all that, you know, wills of the people had to go somewhere. It went to maybe a tree at first, but like we see with Smiley and Punk Hazard, you don't necessarily need to have a tree that's on, or a fruit that's on a tree or on a bush. It can be on already picked fruit, but when there's a massive calamity, the first signs of life, like a world tree, are going to be where those manifest, and that's right there in that second world. And then looking at that, those of the half crescent and the full moon dreamed, I think that is heavily associated to what we see with the awakening Hagoromo scarfs. Like there's good desires and there's dark desires, and all of them are going to dream at once. Like you may have one side who have become victorious in a battle or in a conflict, but both sides are going to dream at the end of the day, right? Like Blackbeard said in his first introduction, dreams never die. Doesn't matter if it's a good dream or not. So when we see these awakening scarves, like through Lucci, the Gorosei, and this Cerberus fruit, or possibly a Cerberus fruit, they have this dark awakening scarf. Now, where the distinction might be, where we're not getting all these nameplates for the Gorosei reveal. We're not getting a nameplate for that Cerberus fruit where it says, you know, dog fruit, model whatever, or same with the Gorosei. They themselves have dreamt so long that they no longer see themselves as human. So why would they get introduced as such? You know what I mean? So like they very well may have devil fruits, But why would they be introduced as such when they themselves don't see themselves as these humans? They see themselves as the creatures.
That's
The human
interesting.
husk is just like that's the facade to them, even though at their core, just like Garling coming into that position, is a human ready to be ascended.
Fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, that is.
But
really
like, as
interesting.
far as the like positioning of the panel, I think more or less it's depicting on the grander scale the first and second world. But then
Interesting.
you kind of compress it down to like a Venn diagram to things overlapping. Like in the first world, you have inklings of that
Right.
second world with the Zunisha creature possibly delivering the Ark to Fishman Island in light of the catastrophe that's about to happen. Like the Sovereign of the Sea may not have been born yet, so that they were not there to mass migrate people, or they were confined in some way. So that could be one of Zunisha's crimes, was actually delivering the Noah. Or, as we see that this figure on top of this Zunisha-like creature, looking like Emu's figure, but I don't think it's Emu. I think that is more aligned to Lily. They're holding them up to this tree to give these fruits to humanity, right? So basically like a betrayal in that sense. Like, you're taking the food of the gods and giving it to the people, like Prometheus stealing fire, and then they were punished as such.
It's really
That's
interesting.
awesome, man. I love all these different perspectives, because I'm not gonna lie, I had a totally different look when I first put this together. But this is what I alluded to at the beginning when we were talking about the mural first. Like, this mural will be referenced and interpreted in so many different ways going forward, that this could be all three worlds. This could be a prediction of the future. This could be a retelling of something that happened in the past. But either way, there's going to be multiple ways to get a message from this, and I simply can't give out enough credit. This panel would mean nothing without the 20 plus years of context he's put into this world and the mythology he's built from the ground up. And to see it all come together in an image like you would see in our world, drawn in a cave perhaps, or on old scriptures, like, it's just fascinating.
And then, like, you're looking at the transition between the second world to the third world. This is where I'm kind of saying, like, it could just be depictions of the first and second, but also that little bit of a Venn diagram squish where you have reflections of the past being presented as the present, if that makes sense. So, like, we see this conflict between the people in the boat that are supposed to possibly represent the Gorosei. One is outside of the boat. We just had a replacement Gorosei, so that could be that distinction. You have Emu, who has fostered some sort of dominion over the new Mother Flame with taking over Egghead. They got Punk Records away, but they didn't secure the Mother Flame, so that's still in the world government's hands. So where that reflection of the past is coming in is, obviously, we see that with Emmet being right there. We see an ancient giant, which everyone's like, oh my god, that's Loki, but it also could just be representative of that race from the past.
Right. Initially, my thoughts
yeah.
didn't go to Loki. It was Vex and other people have pointed out to me that, like, the silhouette in itself has the horns and the hair, and the scale of him compared to what we think are the giants there to the left of the mermaid princess would make sense when they said Loki is a way bigger giant than normal giants.
Oh, exactly. And obviously, there's going to be some scales that are a little bit, like, not quite
Of
one-to-one,
course.
because you see the little Tontada there, and then you have that person that's right in front of the mermaid princess that looks either like a dog, or, as me and my buddy Quell like to headcanon right now, that he's actually a Tanuki, the first forest god, like, properly the first forest god, a
That would
Tanuki.
be awesome.
Interesting.
So, like, Chopper himself right now has been reverse engineering himself into that, like, initial being. He just needed that human element that was lost through time.
Yeah, the way that
If
I
that makes
kind of
sense. Like,
perceive that little
go ahead.
guy is that's like a mink, because we see Tontata, mermaid, mink, giant, and like and things like that, and then Daxake pointed out that could be a Lunarian up by the whale, and we see another mink-like figure over on the right side of the whale, closer to the tree, but distinctively from the other, this one is larger and is there's like a white coloration to them, and so I'm thinking that it's like a normal mink down below underneath the sun, and then a mink that is more closer to the moon.
Sulong.
If we assume that's the moon, this would be like a Sulong variation of a mink up here above, like what looks like Emmet, you know. But a Tanuki,
You have a little bit of an account for that.
Yeah,
If
that's
they
pretty
are
cool.
both
Yeah.
minks, so you have, you know, the dog mink, and then up there you have that Sulong mink that is in proximity to the moon within the mural itself. A lot of people are
Nocturnal and
speculating
diurnal.
that, yeah, and people are expecting Enel to come back with his his little
Ooh.
army of
Automata.
automata. So why wouldn't he actually have some of these moon minks coming back down with him?
Oh my
That's
goodness.
super interesting. Wow. But
Because
yeah,
if you
Where
look
do you
at
stand on
that
that, by the
massive
way?
serpent there, like right by like a pluming building, that draws
Yeah.
back to the Skypea cover story panel again, like the NL cover story where there's a massive serpent working on a big piece of machinery on the moon, right?
Right. Where do you
Yeah.
sit on the whole Enel return cover story stuff? Do you think he's coming back as a character? Do you think we're just going to get more references to what he may have known or did?
I would like him to come back. I would want him to be written in a way where he's kind of like understood where he went wrong and puts his faith in Luffy. He's like, you know what? Like, the world I wanted was actually only like achievable through means that I didn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
you seem to understand this, so I'm gonna back you. It's
I
kind of
think-
like a Kaido situation where it's just
A
like
moment-
the only person who
moment of
can take me on
enlightenment.
and the only person who can take me out is Joy Boy, and that's the only time I'm stepping aside. So maybe Enel might have
Yeah.
like a similar like epiphany.
yeah,
Well,
me-
maybe perhaps too the murals he's seen on the moon. Not to
Mhm.
cut you off, Fix.
No, you're
Did
good.
open his eyes to the truth of this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
very true.
way that I see
Or-
it is that Enel effectively has returned this arc in the roles that he filled in the arc that he was in. Like, I feel like Enel was effectively like a litmus test or a prototype for what we are currently getting at Elbaf in Loki and this mural. And so like Loki is somebody who definitively claims to be the sun god. And we know that to be most likely not true because of, you know, we've had the whole story through Luffy goggles, and like
Yeah.
we're pretty certain that that's the modern day sun god if there aren't multiple of them. But that, you know, him claiming to be a god, like how Enel was claiming to be a god, and apparently, you know, there were like Enel was the cause of destruction, and like Luffy beat him. I don't know, like it's especially with Enel going to the moon and Loki leaving for some reason or another, and then like both of them being able to bear witness to these scriptures of like Enel seeing it on the moon, and Loki almost assuredly has seen this carving in this tree, right? Sometime before he
Right,
was
yeah, right.
imprisoned. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the Daxake did a video a while back on like how Elbaf is where a lot of characters' true selves will be revealed and like masks will be cast aside. And he talked a lot more about some Loki and NL parallels, but honestly, I don't know if I need NL back in the story, just because a lot of
Right.
what we're getting already fulfills what he would represent or does represent, you know?
That's the same way I feel about Shiki. Like, we already got all his imagery through, like, you know, someone having a sword stabbed in their head instead of a wheel, and then all the massive
Yeah.
massive
So I
beasts that he was trying to get. So it's all there, like exactly what you're saying.
I can
I
agree
won't
to
lie.
that,
Respect
even
that.
though I want Shiki. I can agree to that though.
Yeah.
I want Shiki as well, but I totally understand the sentiment because the messaging behind the character has been in play.
Yeah, go ahead, Cube.
I won't lie. I would love for it to be Arlong and Fishman Island arc, where he did not return, but his story will return to the eyes of someone who used to be close to him. So, with Jinbei. And I would love that the person who brings up that new context without having an L could be Yoruj.
Yeah.
If
That's
they
a
have
great way to
connection,
bring
they're
him
both
back without
Birkins.
bringing him back. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then the Shiki context could be brought through with Gabon because, like, post Roger dispersal, I'm sure Shiki went to a bunch of people and, tried to garner his perspective. So we'll at least have Shiki's
Some closure
perspective
on
from
those
Gabon, right?
Timelines.
Or
Closure is definitely needed for both of them. I will say
Hell yeah.
that. Like, we got some madman up in the sky on the moon with an army of robots with no answers. And we got this guy in the background who's apparently had a 20-year plan and we still have no answers. So there's definitely closure needed there.
I mean, for Shiki, I think it's for a lot of the former Rocks members that are really defeated. It would be, if we're gonna get at one point from Rayleigh the Roger Pirate backstory, big or small, we're just gonna get some closure with it. It would make sense that Shiki might have the same thing, because we know Kaido, Big Mom, and Shiki and Whitebeard are gonna return in a God Valley flashback to some shape or form. So
Yeah.
there is actually, I just caught it. Is it just me or the fish that's just behind, what seems to be Shiroshi, the mermaid princess? Could this be a Kaido or Momo, the representative of Kaido or Momo's fruit?
I was
Because of
just
the
about
scale?
to touch on that, actually.
Okay, I'll let you spit then. I just saw
So
that.
I definitely think that's Momo because right behind them in that ship, we see another person who has a Hagoromo scarf. And the only other person that we've seen with a white Hagoromo scarf and awakening is Yamato. And they're alongside the samurai and ninja alliance. So that's why I'm saying it's reflections of the past and present because you have Yamato there reflecting Odin's will. And then you also have Emmett there who's like reflecting the past and
You literally
All that
see
kind of stuff.
Happy you touched on that.
a samurai and a ninja in the boat right behind the person with that scarf, like you were saying. Because there's like a little shuriken, and
I
like
love
this
the
person
idea of
has a top knot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that
I
black
should
ship
have-
that's at the bottom could be like an interesting inverse to like or not even an inverse, like in Lord of the Rings, those black ships that carried those like wild men. And then they changed the flag at the last moment. It's like, nope, this is actually our ship.
Wait
So
a
that
minute.
could be like a man marked by flames black ship kind of tie-in coming in to
Oh,
help
good.
in the final days.
Yeah, that's why just when you said black ship, I didn't realize the ship was black. I said, ooh.
We were talking about earlier. It's the only one actually shaded darker than the three.
It's
creatures.
very distinct.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said it possible creates whirlpool, and the one being that we seem to be sure of that's close by is Shiroshi. I mean, Poseidon seems to be,
Yeah.
But I love all this interpretation because I do think it is going to be. We're going to see messaging about what the final battle looks like, but also what the battles look like in the past, because there's so many people getting different interpretations of it. I haven't heard one yet that I dismiss, that I've heard and been like, yeah, no, I don't think you're right in that. I honestly believe there's so much to this picture that will track throughout the rest of the story. Multiple theories are going to come from it, and
Yeah,
I'm
talked
fascinated with everybody's opinion.
I've talked with a lot of people about it already, and I'm so happy to hear all of your thoughts on it, Ghost. And everybody in the chat, or if you're watching this in the future, we are doing our full chapter discussion breakdown tomorrow. It should be uploaded later tomorrow as well. But so you can hear more of our full thoughts on the full chapter, not just the mural, although it's going to be a lot about the mural. But I just think that this is so... It's such a crazy time to be caught up in One Piece, because like when I first got caught up, I'm still relatively new into the scene and everything, but my first current chapter was 1044. I read 1043 7 hours before 1044 dropped, so that was like the first thing I saw. And so like, and the implications of Gear 5 and like learning more about like the Sun God and Nika and like Luffy's awakening and stuff like that set forth a huge wave in the theory community. And it was around that time that I first started getting into theories, and I was noticing that like some of the craziest theories, because I did a deep dive going way back, and I've been very tapped into the theory community ever since. It's how I met most of the people here right now. And it's like, I think that like 1044 did so much for the theory community in helping like some of the biggest theories of possibly the entire like One Piece YouTube like scene getting put out around that time. And I would name drop a couple, but like, you know, you guys know if you, but like, I think this is where this is going to be. This is like, I think gonna mirror that entirely. I think that like, this is exactly what, you know, theorists making One Piece content right now needed, because I strongly feel like some of the biggest, the next hugest theories in One Piece theory history are about to drop because of this. I really think that.
And they could possibly be the most concrete and spoilery theories we've ever had. To be honest with you, the people in this community are geniuses, and we're getting so much information in LBAF so quickly. We all expected to be drip fed this stuff, but right out the gate, they didn't hold us back with Robin and Saul's reunion. We got right to it, right into the library, right to this mural, hearing all about the legends of Sun God King Harold and what he went through. I'm on the edge of my seat every chapter, and it's a fantastic time to be in a part of the community.
Oh, absolutely. And just kind of jumping off of like the whole point of like you read 1043 just before 1044 even came out. Like I made a video maybe like a day before this chapter came out saying like, if you think Oda is dropping the like Aztec mythology, you're absolutely mistaken. Something's gonna come up, and then this absolute monster of a chapter comes out. I was like, oh, thanks, Oda.
Yes,
I need to change my pants.
It literally couldn't have worked out more better, because I know you have a lot of knowledge on the ancient Aztec mythology and how it connects to the story and stuff. So it literally could not have worked out any better to get this mural at this time.
I think one of the most poignant things coming out of Egghead, as far as the five sun mythology comes in, and the fact that we're in the third world was just absolute perfect confirmation past that. But you have Trafalgar D water law, which is another, you know, the water sun, for water is another association with the four suns. And then you have Blackbeard, who represents for motion. And now those two characters came to conflict. And why that's like relevant is that we're learning in LBAF that Nika could be a destructor, could be a liberator. The fact that those two potential suns narratively, like from the mythology, are in conflict means that we have the possibility for things to go back to normal as an inverse to the fourth sun where it flooded. Things will just kind of revert back, or we'll go into an age of darkness, earthquakes, and that's how the fifth sun came by. And that's literally Blackbeard's whole thing, is darkness and earthquakes.
Void. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Man, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's just floored me a little bit. And like, that's what I'm saying is like it's been a minute since I've seen a theory that like took my breath away the way that some theories did. You know, if I think it was like about 2.5 years ago now at this point, like, and I can't wait for like the new, like this new wave of like a ton of like, it's crazy because some of this stuff, like, I don't think you can dismiss a single thing on this mural. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it could
right.
all be
That's the beauty of it.
insanely important. Yeah. And
Like even looking at the smokestack buildings, there's 8 of them. That's Drum Island and the corruption, like represented through Wapple, and having the Black Drum Kingdom as a result. And there's 20 figures harvesting shit out of the earth. That's the 20 kingdoms. Like, it's all there.
It's I love that stuff. I even love to do this just looking at old images of our world, like, you know, old pictures people have drawn, because there's so much symbolism packed in here, and that's, you got to give it to Oda. This picture is incredible.
I absolutely love it. I'm like unironically probably gonna get this tattooed on my chest.
We look forward
Yeah.
to that, and we'll all celebrate when you do that. Everybody go follow Ghost Train for when he gets that tattooed.
Hell yeah! I'm gonna use that as some maybe engagement farming. Just be like, hey, if you guys get me to 15k followers, I'll get this tattooed on my chest.
You heard it here first, folks.
Sounds like
But
a plan.
honestly,
15k is a low amount for a full chest tattoo, man.
but no,
We gotta
like
shoot
honestly, it could not. I know this wasn't like a chapter centric discussion, but just like we said, it's just such a crazy time to be a One Piece fan and to be caught up in it right now. And it could not have been a better time to have a guest like you on. So we really appreciate you coming on. We're gonna have to do this again soon, like, because it's always a pleasure cooking with you. And like I said, I firmly believe that some of the strongest theories we've ever seen are on the horizon. And if you guys want to see that firsthand, make sure you go follow Ghost Train of Thought on TikTok for sure.
And I definitely appreciate you guys bringing me on again. It's been far too long. It's always great to chop it up, and it's always exciting, especially when it's a big chapter like this, and you can't help but get excited.
I know. It's
Ghost
been a
pain of
pleasure,
thought. Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure,
Hilarious.
man. It's fascinating
Yeah.
getting these perspectives. I love to hear your takes on this stuff, and I really appreciate you joining us for this today. It was the perfect chapter to have you on for a discussion, but I will definitely be looking forward to having you on in the future, and I know our community will as well.
Thank you.
Definitely. But yeah,
Any final thoughts, Cube, brother?
hey man, listen, my only final thought while you guys were talking at the end, I said I want to know who else in the world, if we're going to get flashbacks of different people who've seen the mural. And my real question is, if the Roger saw that mural, was it before or after Laugh Tale? Because it's very indicating that the Roger Pirates understood the real story after going to Laugh Tale. So there could be a thing where this mural, you need to go next to Laugh Tale to really understand it. You know what I mean? For Robin.
Great.
Just my
take.
final thought. Yeah, just my final thought.
Yeah, super excited for whatever Oda's cooking up for us next. And I don't know,
Dude,
with
I am
that being
scared,
said,
I'm really scared of what he's cooking next. I think I might have a heart attack if he continues like that.
so with all that being said,
A
it's
second
been
mural.
such a pleasure. If we get another one, I swear, dude. But it's like I said,
next chapter.
it's always fire cooking with you, Ghost, and like it's been such a pleasure. And yeah, dude, like make sure you guys go check out and follow and support Ghost, and check out our Discord if you haven't already. But we are gonna wrap it up here. Make sure you're subscribed so you can catch our full chapter breakdown here on the Eternal Dawn tomorrow. But yeah, with that said, Cube, you want to send us off?